Today, it's part 3 of Project S10K. We'll button up our budget V8 engine swap with a bigger fuel injection, hotter computer, electric fans, and a fabricated exhaust. All on the cheap.
Hey, welcome to Trucks. And you guessed it, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to finish Project S10K and turn this boring 95 S10 into the truck GM should have built.
Yeah, but before we do that, we want to tell you about what we've already done. We removed the V6 from underneath the hood, we beefed up the tranny with a shift kit, upgraded the brakes, and then we dropped this thing to the ground with a lowering kit. Then, we stuffed a GM Performance Crate 350 in it.
That's right, and if everything goes well today, you're going to hear this sucker roar. But first, let's talk about our budget. We bought our S10 with a hatched engine for $950. It had some serious issues, some body rust, and it looked like red gravy, but it was a solid enough truck. So far, we've spent more than half of our 10 grand to get where we are today, but we're still on track to turn this plain Jane truck into a ground-pounding street machine.
We're building our project end to end, one step. Now, if money's tight, you do one project at a time.
When the S10 first appeared, like most of the vehicles of the day, it was carbureted. Now, if you got an older truck, you can throw your V8 in, toss on an aftermarket intake and carburetor, and you're ready to rock and roll. But if your truck was fuel injected like ours was from the factory, you want to really consider upgrading to a system that can better suit the demands of that V8. Now, don't be intimidated by fuel injection, because once you understand it, EFI is actually easier to work on than a carburetor.
The carburetor has a float bowl, which is fed from the tank with a fuel pump. Now, the level is controlled by a float that opens the needle and the seat. When the level drops, the float lowers and allows more fuel to enter. The air that's drawn into the engine through the intake stroke passes through the carburetor body. That is what we call a venturi. A venturi creates a low pressure that draws the fuel from the float bowl and atomizes it in the air. Now that is basically what a carburetor does.
Now, even though a carburetor is a pretty complicated device, it's an economical way to make big power. But when you consider that a fuel injector is nothing more than a spray nozzle that's controlled by a computer, that's a pretty simple solution. Now, our S10's ECM measures exhaust and oxygen content and lets us know whether the trucks are under rich or lean. The manifold absolute pressure sensor, or MAP sensor, determines what kind of load the truck's under. The throttle position sensor measures the throttle blade angles. And the coolant temperature sensor tells the computer how cool the truck's running. Colder temperatures mean more fuel for cold running and starting. All this information is monitored, and the injector pulse width is lengthened or shortened. The PWM, or pulse width modulation, is the amount of on-time the injector sees measured as a duty cycle. So, a 90% duty cycle means that for every second, that injector is spraying 90% of the time. So more fuel means more power. Fuel injection automatically adjusts for changes in temperature. It's not affected by severe angles or even hard braking. EFI is great to have. And if you know your options, you can keep it on your vehicle easily.
Our original 4.3 V6 is a TBI, throttle body injection system. Now, GM used a lot of these injection systems on their motors, including their V8s, which is exactly why we stuck with EFI. All the wiring, it's already here.
With all the wiring in place under the hood, here's where you got to make a choice. You could take the original TBI unit, replace these injectors with some new V8 injectors, adapt it to your manifold, you'd be good to go. But the cost of these replacement V8 injectors costs almost as much as this complete new throttle body assembly. You could go to a junkyard and pick up one of these units off of a V8, but it's a used part. You got used sensors, so you run the risk of getting a dud.
For our S10, we chose this brand new performance throttle body from Holley. Holley basically used the design of GM's TBI units to build the projection EFI kits. Not only will this 670 CFM unit feed the small block the fuel it needs, all we have to do is swap out some connector ends, but everything our truck's computer needs is on the throttle body, making this the perfect bolt-on for this V8 swap.
Now, with an aftermarket cable bracket in place, the throttle cable connects to the throttle control. Then the MAP sensor, idle air control valve, throttle position sensor, and coolant temp sensor drop right into place.
With the flamethrower HEI distributor and coil throwing sparks out through an 8mm plug wires, we'll have no trouble burning up the fuel going into the throttle body.
Up next, we're building a twin fan cooling system.
They can be pushers or pullers, so we've got them wired.
Hey guys, welcome back to Trucks and our S10K project, where 10 grand recycles an old tire pickup into a ground-pounding mean street machine.
That's right. We got our small block stuff between the frame rails, plenty of spark, plenty of fuel thanks to the new EFI system we got on here that works with our truck's computer.
During the break, we installed the last part to make our truck run, and that was the computer chip.
This chip from Hypertech piggybacks onto our stock chip and is a performance upgrade for a 95 V8 pickup. It simply replaces the factory chip to trick our V6 computer into running our V8. Plus, it'll lengthen our injector on time and change the spark curve to give us even more power. And now we get to start putting some of the sheet metal back on, make this thing look like a truck again.
These inner fenders may look new, but they're not. It's amazing what a little bit of elbow grease and some fresh paint can do. Obviously, swapping our V6 for a V8, our engine's gonna create more heat. The 4.3 is commonly referred to as the V8 small block with 2 cylinders cut off. Well, we added those 2 cylinders back to our engine, so it's obviously longer. That means no room for the fan.
But we planned for that, and I've had good luck cooling V8s with twin pushers in front of the radiator like these 12 inches we got from O'Reilly's. We also have an aluminum core, so that's gonna help us dissipate heat even faster. One thing you want to do before you hardwire your fans in is check the direction that they're blowing in. Remember, these fans are reversible. You can switch the wirings. They can be pushers or pullers. So we've got them wired. And right there, these are pushing towards me. They're supposed to be pulling through the radiator. This would have caused our engine to overheat. So now we know how to wire this up. With the accessories on the front of the V8, this old radiator shroud is not going to work. And that's what holds the radiator in place. So we got to come up with something different. I got a piece of cardboard and made a template. It's going to hold the radiator in place and saddle the top of the core support. And then I hunted around the shop and found this stainless steel molding. It was just kicking around in a corner. Took a piece of it to my metal brake and ended up with something that cost us nothing. This was free. And it looks fantastic. It's going to do the job. You can be on a budget and still have some cool stuff on your truck.
The one thing you want to keep track of is where all that hot air from the front end of your truck's going. Now, if it's slammed like ours, all that hot air in the engine compartment, it's got nowhere to go. But we just so happen to have a plan for that right after the break.
Next, it's a cowl hood cool down. And later, check out our low buck 2-in-1 exhaust.
Hey, thanks for hanging with us at Trucks. We're getting ready to fire up S10K and prove that you can put together an awesome street truck for less than 10 grand.
Yeah, and we haven't even spent all our money yet, but we're not done yet. If you guys remember when we tore this thing down, I told you to keep these shims in place. Well, this is where that tip pays off. This thing's gonna line up nice and straight.
Since the front of our truck is in great shape, we're reusing the stock fenders. And I know you're looking at the color of this thing, and the last thing you're thinking is cool. But Paul and I got a plan. But first, this truck needs to be bolted together. All our fender bolts are in place, but you don't want to tighten them down with the truck still on the lip. The reason is the way it's supported here. The engine weight could actually make the front end droop, and when it sits down on the ground under chassis load, could close this panel gap up. So let it sit on the ground, then do your final tweaks. Besides, we've got to put the hood on and set our fender gap as well.
Now you guys can really see what we were talking about. With all that heat coming off our radiator and into our engine compartment, that hot air's got nowhere to go. Not around the tires or under the fenders, and that'll make your truck overheat.
Yeah, but we've got two 12-inch pusher fans in front of our factory aluminum radiator, and we're betting that's going to keep our engine cool. Plus, we're using ceramic-coated headers that are going to pass more exhaust heat through them instead of radiating it into the engine compartment. As a matter of fact, some exhaust manufacturers claim at least a 300-degree temperature reduction under hood.
To help get the remaining hot air out of our engine compartment, we're going to install this cowl induction hood from LMC Truck. Made from 22-gauge stamped steel, this hood is a direct fit for our S10. And a 2-inch cowl vent will help our V8 get some fresh air and get rid of that hot air.
The hood bolts up to the factory hinges, and the quality of the sheet metal piece is so good, it's what we body guys call a scuff and shoot.
This is where all your hard work could be for nothing. Check everything twice before turning that key. Oil levels, electrical connections, belts and hoses. Once you're sure everything looks good, turn the key and let it roar. Gab, you ready?
Hit it, man. Yeah! After the break, we'll take care of that exhaust so you can hear it talk. Yeah, man.
Hey guys, welcome back to Trucks. As you can see, our S10K project is near completion. And it looks a heck of a lot better than it did when it rolled in our shop.
That's right, this 95 S10 is getting a complete transformation from its humble beginnings, and we're doing it on the cheap. But it's not just a parts budget. Everything we've done so far can be done with basic tools.
Not once have we had to use the plasma cutter or the MIG welder. Now, keeping with that theme, we're on our way to the local muffler shop, and we're gonna get that brand new exhaust done.
We could have bought a universal exhaust kit for a couple $100, but we made a few calls and talked to the guys at the local Quick Muffler, got a reasonable estimate of about $250, muffler and all.
Yeah, the best thing about it is, they got us in and out of there in 30 minutes, start to finish.
All right, we're on the cheap, so we're gonna go 2-into-1, out back, dump right in front of the axle. It's gonna sound great, and it's gonna meet our budget. Even though this is single exhaust, it's got a performance muffler, a high-flow cat, and it's short, so we're not sacrificing performance here at all.
Tim and Wayne started off taking a few measurements and they got right to work, making a down pipe from the right bank collector.
The ECM requires data from the O2 sensor, so they welded in a bung, then bolted the down pipe onto the collector. Then they added the Y joint that will hook with the left down pipe and torched out the middle for flow.
We're using 2 1/4-inch pipe, which will flow plenty of volume through our 350 and still sound great.
After the cat goes in, the 2-chamber Flowmaster follows, and a turn down is added to that ahead of the axle. Yeah, look at these welds.
Oh yeah.
Real nice. Perfect.
Yeah. With the main muffler and pipe section in place, the Y pipe on the left side is fabricated and then welded into the joint on the right bank down pipe.
Man, our truck sounds great with the new exhaust on it. It's got tons of power thanks to the V8 conversion. Now all that's left to do is the paint and body.
If you've got about as much patience as I do and hands like mitts, bodywork's probably not your forte. But Kevin assures me that he's got some big plans for this truck. So you're gonna wanna stick around and see the finish of the S10K. You got an 07 Tahoe or Yukon, and you wanna give it that aggressive race front look? Well, FabTech has just come out with this spacer kit that corrects the slight rake of the stock chassis. It sits on top of the factory strut, and the supplied bolts replace the factory studs that are cut off. The best thing about this kit is that it just takes a few basic tools like jack stands, your basic wrenches, a cut-off tool or a hacksaw, in just a few hours of your time. Now, you can get this FabTech kit for about 150 bucks.
This is B&M's Task Master diesel converter. These are ideal for stock to modified diesel engines. They're made with multiple disc lockup clutches, one-way clutch components, furnace-brazed turbine and impeller, and a new turbine hub. Now, these are intended to maximize the efficiency of a vehicle's engine and torque converter combination to improve acceleration and pulling power in light trucks. B&M's Task Master converters start at about 1,500 bucks. Now, here's something else that'll help your diesel truck. This is Edelbrock's diesel exhaust system. It's made from 4-inch diameter mandrel-bent aluminized steel tubing. The new Edelbrock muffler is all aluminized steel and has a patent-pending chambered design that has no filler material to deteriorate. All the hardware is zinc-plated for maximum corrosion protection, and the tailpipes are polished 304 stainless steel. You can have an Edelbrock diesel exhaust system on your truck for about 500 bucks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week.